Hey everyone, welcome back to another Modify Monday. Today I'm going to give you some modifications and variations for backbends. Now backbends are great for strengthening and energizing the body. Personally, I love to practice backbends because they feel really good in my body and I always leave my practice feeling energized and ready to conquer anything that comes during my day. Backbends help to keep our spine nice and healthy. They stretch the front of our hips and quadriceps, and they even stretch out the chest and the shoulders. Now, a lot of us do spend most of our days hunched over, maybe working at a desk or in a car sitting in traffic for the majority of our day. So our bodies do develop a natural resistance to backbends, but there's really no need to be worried. In this video, I'm going to give you some very gentle backbend modifications that you can take. Before we get started, I do want to preface that before you practice a full backbend variation or even modifications, or even before practicing Urdhva Dhanurasana, which is what I'm doing here, please make sure that you warm up the body. Backbends are a full body pose, so you want to make sure that you're nice and warm. Okay, first modification here actually comes from Iyengar, and it's a shoulder opener using a chair. So what you want to do is have your knees directly underneath your hips, and you can pad your knees with a blanket. You want to place the edges of your elbows at the very edge of your chair. It's optional to hold a block in between your wrist. Now you want to focus here on just maintaining your neutral spine. We all have a natural curve, especially in our lower back, so you want to keep that natural curve, but what you don't want to do is kind of sink down and overarch and overstretch through the back. So what that might look like is this. You don't want to do this. So to refrain from doing this, press your elbows down, lift your lower belly in. You want to make sure that your elbows are shoulders width distance and keeping the wrist wide. So a block does help here. By keeping the wrist wide, you help rotate the upper arms away from one another, aligning the upper arm and shoulder bones so they don't pinch the tendons that run across the top of the shoulder joints. Okay, next up we're going to use a block to modify Ustrasana, camel pose. So take that block or a book in between your inner thighs and you're gently squeezing that block. Tuck your toes under. Use your hands to support your lower back. Here's two ways that you can place your hands on your lower back. It really just depends on the comfortability through the shoulders. Either way, your hands are on your lower back, on the sacrum, and you're gently pressing your tailbone down and pressing your hips forward. I want you to imagine that you had a pole kind of pushing in between your shoulder blades. So what's happening here is you're not dumping into the lower back, you're not dumping into the lumbar spine, you're lifting your heart up first and then back. Okay, next up, we're going to use our blocks again. We're going to take our blocks in a more restorative backbend version. So let's have that first block. That's going to support our head. The second block is going in between the shoulder blades, just like this. Note that your block is not touching your neck, okay? So it's kind of on the mid-back, upper back region. Make sure your blocks are about a hand's width distance apart and take your time here. Go nice and gentle. Again, that first block goes in between the shoulder blades. The second block is for your head. Take your time here, adjust as you need to. Sometimes it's more comfortable to have the feet down and the knees up. Make sure that you don't feel any pinching sensation through the back. Now this first block, since it's for our head, you can actually lower it to the medium setting like this. You could also lower it to the lowest setting like this. It really just depends on how open you are and how much of a backbend you want to practice. Another option is to bring your arms overhead and just kind of cross at the wrist. This gives you a feeling of vulnerability, so it could be good to practice. Now if you're really open and you really want to go for it, you can remove that block completely and just rest your head on the floor. But be mindful here, this does start to stretch into the throat and neck. Okay, next up, we're going to use our blocks again, except this time we're going to have our blocks horizontal. So again, we have one block for our head. This next block goes right underneath your shoulder blades. It is not on your lower back, it is directly underneath your shoulder blades. Be mindful here as you come down. Again, I can't stress this enough. That block does not go on your lumbar spine. It does not go on your lower back. It's more on the mid-back region. Think kind of in the middle of your rib cage, or if you're a woman, think about it being on your bra strap. Again, you could play around here. Some people like to remove the block underneath their head. So if that's you, you can absolutely go for it, but don't worry. This is a great stretch and opener on its own. Now, if you don't have blocks, that's okay. You can use a pillow, you can use blankets. So a good thing about a pillow is that it is a little bit more cushiony. So the pillow can actually go on the lower back. It's perfectly okay. This would be considered kind of like a modified fish pose. Now you want to make sure here that if you are using a pillow, your shoulder blades, the backs of your shoulders are resting on the floor. They're not on the pillow. It's going to feel a lot more comfortable if your shoulders are resting on the floor. You can play around with your legs here. Maybe you want to straighten your legs. That could feel good. Another option is to have the soles of your feet together and your knees wide. If you really want to optimize this opening even more, maybe stack 2 pillows on top of each other and see how that feels. Alright, next up, we're still going to use our pillow, except this time it's going to be vertical, and have a blanket at the top of the pillow for the back of your head. You want to make sure the edge of your pillow is touching your lumbar spine, it's touching the sacrum, and you're just simply going to lay back. This is a nice restorative back bend. If you ever take restorative yoga, or if you ever take restorative yoga with me, we will do this pose. Okay, next up, this is a more common modification, is to take a modified bridge pose. So you're lying down on your back, your feet are underneath your knees, and you simply slide a pillow or a block underneath your bum. If you want to intensify this, you can stack 2 pillows on top of each other. Option here to straighten one leg at a time or both of your legs. It's a nice gentle stretch and gentle opening through the quadriceps and through the front of your hips. You might even feel a gentle stretch across the abdominals. Something fun that you can do here is to place a pillow or a blanket over the top of your hips, and you have a little bit of a hip sandwich. Okay, next up, the most common modification that you'll probably see in a group yoga class is simply bridge pose. So same thing here, we're lying on our back, our feet are underneath our knees. You want to make sure that your middle finger could graze the back of your heels. Pull the edges of your mat apart and start to lift your hips up. Snuggle the shoulders underneath you. Press the back of your head down so the chin is not tucking into the chest. Chin is pulling away from the chest. Keep pulling the edges of your mat apart. Imagine you could rip the mat apart. You're not going to, don't worry. If you want to go further, you can interlace your fingers underneath your bum and hug the shoulders and snuggle the shoulders underneath you even more. Keep lifting those hips up nice and high. Your feet are pressing down and energetically dragging back so you activate the hamstrings, and you're gently hugging the inner thighs together. The legs are not touching their hips width distance, but you're just imagine that you had a block in between your inner thighs and you wanted to hug that block together. All right, my friends, that is it for today. I hope that you found these modifications helpful. If you try them out, let me know. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, share with your friends. For more tips and tricks on how to make your yoga practice more accessible and comfortable, and how to feel really good in your mind and body, I would love for you to check out my virtual yoga studio, Chasity Ramsey Yoga. My virtual yoga studio is completely tailored towards beginners and those of us who might feel less mobile and less flexible in the body, or maybe you're working through an injury. By joining my virtual yoga studio, you get unlimited access to high-quality, pre-recorded, guided yoga and meditation classes. You will feel nurtured, you will feel comfortable, and you will feel totally empowered in your body. All right, my friends, happy practicing. Namaste.